Welcome to Split Your Head. I'm your host, Bob, and today's special guest is Brandon Lim, musician, designer, writer, and film programmer. Truly one of the inspiring jack of all trades that makes me wonder, when do they sleep? I first met Brandon when I bought one of his Face Off long sleeves for my wife from his Fatal Stasis film merch company. And I've been following him since, whether it's his collaborative zine Film Fuckers or staring in awe at one of his fantastic posters. I've yet to catch him playing in Dragon Sounds, though, or one of his many other musical projects. But I digress. It's hard to pin down just one field of interest with this fascinating Torontonian. So let's start with his long running film series, Black Belt Cinema, where I've seen some of the most obscure and entertaining martial arts based oddities on the big screen. Whew, that was a doozy because Brandon, you are a busy
Take a
guy.
deep
How
breath.
are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, Bob. Thank you for having me on. Big fan of Split Your Head. And I've also been following you before you got that face off shirt for me, actually. So, yes, really
Oh,
stoked to be here. Love what you do. Love your letterboxd reviews, especially. Whenever I'm looking up a movie I haven't
oh,
seen,
cool.
it's always a delight when I see that you've reviewed it and that you've logged it. It adds to the sense of trust that I put into taking a chance on watching new films because as we know, it's hard to find time to keep up with all the movies. So your opinion
All
is
right.
trusted in this house, in this home.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Brandon. I appreciate that. And I hope at some point, one of my reviews pushed you to put one of the amazing films that you've had as part of the Black Belt Cinema repertoire.
Oh yeah,
What am I trying to say?
that could happen one day.
Basically, I'm
That
just trying
definitely
to
could
say at
happen.
some point we
I
connect the
don't
dots in that.
know.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
been a long week, long day. We got Easter coming up. We're going to relax. But right now,
uh,
we're going to talk about Black Belt Cinema.
yeah.
Where did it all start? How did it all start? From looking up your Instagram, I saw that you unfortunately started just before the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was literally right when we started, actually. So we were thrown quite a few curveballs in 2020. Let me tell you. But Black Belt Cinema, I believe, specifically started as a series of like outdoor, sort of like micro screenings that I was doing during the pandemic. It was kind of at that time when you could still get together with, I think, like up to 50 people as long as you were staying 2 meters apart. So
Mm.
I don't know. In retrospect, it was not really safe to be doing those. I don't know that anyone got COVID at any of my screenings, but yeah, it just started because I live in Parkdale. I've been in the same apartment for like 10 years, and we have this like huge sort of like parking lot uh, behind our building, which has like this. It's connected by this alley that runs through a few blocks around here, and I don't know. I just was asked if I could host this birthday screening for my friend Alex.
Wait, I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna
Oh, you do?
say.
Wait, you
Con
do? You know?
Air.
Wait, were you there, or you heard about it?
No, he
Okay.
invited me, and I couldn't make it or something.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
um,
August 2020.
yeah. I think it might have been either June 4th or July 4th because that's when
Oh, okay,
that's the day that the movie takes place. And
okay,
our mutual friend Alex Lowe, his birthday is on that day. So
okay.
there was this loose tradition where every year on Alex's birthday, we would get together and watch Con Air because it takes place on his birthday, and Rangers lead the way and all that. And Alex used to live in Soy Bomb, which is
Right.
you know, it was a DIY music venue and also home to a lot of different people. Famously had a half pipe in the middle of the room where a lot of the bands would play. And so, yeah, we would often just watch the movie there. But during the lockdown, we still wanted to have this event. And it was probably, I mean, it was only really safe to do it outside. So, and people knew I had a big parking lot behind. So I think I just kind of suggested, why don't we just do it here? And my friend brought a projection screen, and I think we borrowed a projector from someone, or I might have just bought a projector for the occasion. And yeah, we had this awesome screening of Con Air. Like, I had a whole PA system with speakers and everything, and it's pretty epic. It was a really good time. We had like maybe 30 people all just in like fold out lawn chairs in my backyard parking lot basically. And after that screening, I was just like, wait, why don't I do this again? Like, this was super fun. There's plenty of space for everyone to,
Mm.
keep distanced. And so I decided to do the very first like in-person Black Belt cinema event. I think it was August 16th of 2020. And it was a screening of No Retreat, No Surrender, which is
Right.
just one of my favorite films. And it's actually
Yeah.
kind of a Bruce exploitation film if you think about it. It's about the ghost of
I could
Bruce
see
Lee,
that.
training this student in California or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, prior to that, Black Bolt Cinema, I think I I had just done a series of screenings at mostly like bars and sort of back rooms of event spaces. I used to do this thing called Tapeworm Tuesdays, which was like a VHS night
Hmm.
that we would do at Dundas Video near Dundas
Okay.
and Euclid. It's closed down somewhat, I think, in the last year or two.
Um, didn't it move to another location
It may
or
have.
become something else?
Well, it was the Magpie for a lot of years. They had a lot of shows and stuff like that, and then they kind of
Okay.
rebranded as Dundas Video. They had a
Right.
whole like wall of VHS tapes and little CRT monitors everywhere. And yeah, my friend Trevor was close with the bar owners, and they wanted to do a movie night. So
Hmm.
for the course of like a couple years, we would just show random VHS tapes. It wasn't really like theme specific or anything like that. We showed all kinds of stuff, but you'd be surprised how much tech issues you'd run into with VHS and modern
Yeah.
projectors and sound systems. So it was actually a little bit of there was a lot of nights where we would have technical mishaps. But um, after that, I started to do some screenings at Eyesore Cinema on
Hmm.
Bloor Street actually, and I had a series called Almost Asian, which is kind of like the predecessor of Black Belt Cinema. And the term
Okay.
Almost Asian it was a very specific theme.
Yeah.
Kind of, I'm mixed race. Like my father's Chinese, my mother's Canadian or white, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And so the theme was I would show films that were almost Asian. So
Okay.
specifically sort of like East meets West kind of co-productions, like
Sure.
something like Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, which was
Oh,
a Hammer horror and Shaw Brothers co-production. Something like that would have fit the criteria, or
okay.
um, something like Drive from 1997, which is an American film, but it's shot
Mm.
by Taiwanese American director Steve Wang. So
Right.
movies like that were the theme, and there's not like a long list of films that would meet that criteria, but I did have a good run of maybe like a year or so doing that at Eyesore. And yeah,
Mhm.
then the pandemic happened, and we moved a lot of those screenings online. Like Facebook had this thing called Watch Party where you could just show a movie or something, anything you could basically upload to Facebook. You could just get a bunch of people to join in the watch party. And
Yeah.
yeah, so we started doing these online watch parties just for fun because obviously we weren't supposed to go out and hang out with people. And so this was like a
Yeah.
great way to stay connected with people. You'd have like a little chat going while the movie was playing, and then eventually we moved it to Twitch streaming because that was a little bit easier. And then yeah, eventually the lockdowns started to kind of pass. And um, yeah, that's when I was doing these outdoor screenings with Black Belt Cinema in this parking lot. And we also did a few at Sunnyside Beach, actually, not
Hmm.
far from here. And it was like so much work to do, but so much fun. And I would just get a bunch of people to help me bring down a generator. And my friend made this huge screen stand out of like PVC pipes, and
Hmm.
the screen would attach with like Velcro. And we would go down to this, there's like a rock garden slash butterfly sanctuary at Sunnyside. So it had all these like natural seats that you could just kind of sit on or lean against. And yeah, we would screen movies down there. And it wasn't just like martial arts or Asian cult cinema stuff. Like the stuff I did outdoors was kind of just mixed genre. We we did a screening of Devilfish, the sort of Italian, one of those many Italian Jaws knockoffs. We also screened The Devil's Sword. I did a
Right.
series of events called Crocs of Summer, because I don't know, I just happened to be like really obsessed with alligator and crocodile movies at this time. I just watched John Sayles' Alligator, and I started watching all these Southeast Asian films called like Crocodile Hunter or Killer Crocodiles was one that
Oh,
we screened, the
okay.
Italian one. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, we did a lot of like nautical water themed monster movies down there. And after a series of these events, I think fall and winter started to come around, and I was sort of thinking of like, how do I move this experience indoors? Because it was starting to build a little bit of a following. We were starting to get like, I don't know, anywhere between like 50 to 80-ish people would start to show up at these things,
Wow.
because there wasn't anything going on, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
all word of mouth. It was kind of like we would never post the location or the address. It was just like a ask a punk or DM for location kind of vibe.
Okay.
And because we didn't want like hundreds and hundreds of people showing up to these, right? And I kind of like this idea of like allowing people to sort of find it in their own
Mm.
way, like, and it was kind of like this, not like secret underground movie club thing, but I don't know,
Yeah.
it was really fun to just, I don't know, I connected with a lot of people I'd not really known before, especially in the film community. And
Yeah.
eventually some of the people uh, that run Revue Cinema started to show up to the events.
Oh,
That's
okay.
where I met Serena Whitney, who's the programming director of Revue Cinema.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, I kind of connected with her at one of these events, and
Hmm.
I would often have like DJs at these events, just playing music before and after the film. We'd have like cool movie visuals and slideshows of like, I would get a lot of like VHS scans from like VHScollector.com and just have those on in the background and stuff. And
Okay.
we'd even have like, sorry, this is a lot to take in, but we'd have
No,
a lot of
no,
music.
it's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's the origin story. This is Stockfield
Hmm.
Cinema year one. Um, yeah, we had even like live scores. Like I would cut. Uh, there's this movie called Cry Tong by Sirafon Supong. It's a Thai director, and
Cool.
I it's about this film, but this guy who lives in this magical cave under the water, and it's one of these like Buddhist fables where he lives in this cave and everything he needs is in this cave, and he has no reason to
Hmm.
come to the human world, but he does just because he
Okay.
can't. And also, sorry, he can also transform into a crocodile and back into his sort of divine
Ah.
human form, I guess. So he didn't
Okay.
have to ever leave the sanctuary, but he would keep going to the surface to terrorize people because he would just like eat people as a crocodile just for fun.
Why
Um,
not?
yeah, and eventually, this leads to him getting hunted down by this villager who's trying to protect this village and do the right thing. And
Yeah.
um, anyways, I had a friend, Chris Bowering, do a live score to this
Cool.
with original music. He kind of does a lot of I don't know, creepy industrial kind of noise kind of style music. And
What's
this,
does
yeah,
he have like a project that isn't his name, you know?
yeah, his personal project is called Piss Bowel King, all one word,
Okay.
Piss Bowel King.
Huh. Okay.
And he's actually the drummer in Orville Peck, the country group.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so
Cool.
he's just into all this other weird music on the side. We used to play in a band called Hussy together and a band called
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Sigil.
yeah.
Um,
Okay, cool.
so yeah, you might have heard him play. He's just like honestly the one of the best drummers I've ever played with. But he also messed around with synths and electronics and that
Sweet.
that kind of stuff. So yeah, he did a live
Yeah.
score. And anyways, where was I going with this? Serena Whitney from the Review was at this
Right.
event, and the DJ I had that night, DJ Rice Dream, my friend Bobby, happened to be
Mhm.
playing this one funk song, and it happened to be Serena's dad's funk project. I
Oh,
wish I could remember what it
wow.
was. So it's just weird because
Oh
she's like,
my
"Oh my god,
god.
this is my dad's
Yeah.
song." So it was just like this weird moment
Yeah, yeah.
we had, and then that's sort of how I connected with her initially. Like
Yeah.
I knew of her work at the Review from before, um, and I knew that she had just taken over as the programming director at the Revue, which was formerly directed by Eric Valliette, who's a amazing writer and film preservationist guy. And
Mm,
he has a new account called, I think it's called the Downtown Theater, where it's almost like
okay.
Shock Cinema. He posts a lot of like scans of vintage movie ads and newspaper clippings.
Hmm.
I'll send you the
Okay.
link. I think it's the Downtown Theater or something like that.
Put it
Um,
in the show notes.
yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Anyways, I brought up the idea of bringing Blackballed Cinema to the Review
Hmm.
eventually because like we're going to be looking for a new home in the fall and winter because I want to keep doing these screenings and obviously I can't do them outdoors in the winter. And she's
Yeah.
just like, "Oh my god, yeah, that's great. Like let's definitely talk about that." And I it was a really good time. The timing was really good because as I said, Serena just taken over as the director of Review,
Yeah.
and granted, this was I think she literally got this job a month or two before the pandemic happened. It must have been like January of 2020 or something like that. So within the first 2 months
Mm.
of her taking on this role, the lockdown happened, which was
Ah, yeah.
it was just like what a nightmare to have to deal with all these like sold out screenings and rescheduling them. You don't know if they're going to be rescheduled for a month or two from now or 6 months or a year. So
Hmm.
there's obviously a lot of hurdles, but yeah, I connected with them at the right time. They were very into what I was doing with Black Belt Cinema,
Yeah.
and kind of I'd sort of built this small community around it as well, and I was really excited to be able to bring that into a historic single screen cinema like Review, which is I've been a patron of for years. And
Mm.
I think also at that time in the city there was a quite a bit of a void for martial arts like cinema, at least
Yeah.
in a local rep cinema sense. There
Yeah.
used to be a long running series called Kung Fu Fridays, which
Oh, that sounds
yeah,
familiar.
I
Yeah.
don't know if this was probably as far back as the thousands and 2010s. I'm not sure when the last
Okay.
Kung Fu Friday screening, but it was curated by Colin Geddes, the
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah former host of Midnight Madness and one of the co-founders of the Shudder, the horror streaming service. And
Right.
as a young cinephile growing up in like the suburbs of Scarborough, I would often travel downtown for a lot of these like Kung Fu Friday screenings because like it was not easy to find a lot of these movies. This is obviously like
Hmm.
before the internet and Pirate Bay and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So and all these boutique labels now releasing all this great stuff. So yeah, I would come
Right.
downtown a lot and check out these screenings. He would do it at different places like the old Bloor Cinema before it was Hot Docs.
Okay.
Definitely,
Right.
yeah. Did some nights at the Royal. He even did it at the Review, and I think he also had a night or two at the AGO used to have a theater or a cinema.
Cinematheque or something,
Yeah, I think
right?
it was I think it was a Cinematech,
Okay. Yeah.
location, so
Okay.
he did some screenings there, and so a lot of those screenings were really, exposed me to a lot of, like, it's the first time I saw the Kung Fu Cult Master, or the first time I saw Enter the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, or I guess it was we watched the English dub version, so I think it was maybe called Master Killer, and,
Okay.
because for a while, actually, the Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal used to have a Toronto version where it would sort of kind of run
Yeah.
parallel in Toronto. And I think Colin was kind of the point like director of that for a while. And
Sure.
that
Sure.
didn't last like it I
It's
think I
like a
maybe
couple
went
years or something, right?
yeah,
That's
I
it.
think I went to the
Yeah.
last year that they did it in Toronto, and that's where I saw actually took my dad to see Master Killer enter the 36th Chamber of Shaolin at the old Bloor
Sweet.
Cinema. Actually, it was so much fun. And
Yeah.
probably the last time
Yeah.
I went to a movie with my dad, actually. Geez, that was a long time ago. Um,
Oh.
but
Well, I
yeah.
was, I was, I was gonna say because you mentioned like how you've been going to the Review for a long
Mhm.
time. You've been in Toronto pretty much all your life, from the
Yep.
sounds of
Yep.
it.
Yep.
I don't think I actually started going to the Review until after the pandemic,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, but is it just me, or does it seem like the patronage has exploded there
Yeah.
since the pandemic? And do you think that might be because of all the cinemas that pretty much kind of closed down or shifted their
Yeah.
programming?
So a lot of rep cinemas, if you were, a moviegoer, say in like the 90s or thousands, like you had so many repertory cinemas to choose from.
Yeah.
There was well, there was the old Paradise on Bloor Street in Little
But now
Portugal.
it's back.
Now it's back and it's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
But that I used to go there. I used to live at Ossington and Bloor when I
Mm.
was a bit younger, and yeah, they would show awesome stuff there too at the Paradise. Like I saw like Lucio Fulci's The Beyond
Oh,
there.
sick.
That was like the first time seeing, maybe my first time seeing like an intense Italian horror film like that. Um,
Sure.
and we also had we had the Dawnlands theater on the Danforth,
Hmm.
the Royal before it was more of a whatever it is now, like a private movie house and post
Yeah.
production kind of facility, and um, there's a whole bunch of other ones I'm forgetting the names
Well,
of,
Bloor
but
Cinema
Floor
became
Cinema,
Hot
yeah.
Ducks, and no one goes
Yeah,
anymore.
it's a bit
And
tough. They're doing some cool stuff right now, but they've had a lot of
oh, okay.
challenges. They're like,
Mm.
I think that there's a report that they're like $3 million in debt, and
Oh shit.
um,
Okay.
yeah, so they've had some issues. The funny thing is, the old Bloor Cinema is kind of almost how like what Review is like now. Like
Yeah.
they I don't know if you went there back in the day, but they
Yep.
used to have pretty similar events, a lot of genre stuff, a lot of foreign stuff. Like I think one of the funnest screenings I went to at the old Bloor Cinema was like I saw Tetsuo the Iron Man
Oh shit. Was
played.
not there.
It was really really awesome. There was like 30 people there too in a 500 seat theater, so it was pretty crazy. They used to have this
Mm.
event called Oz Dark Side, and it was like
Oh yeah.
the
I never
one
went to one, but I
it
know what
was
you're
the
talking
one
about.
screening where you could like
Yeah.
smoke weed in the theater, and they would just play The Wizard of Oz with
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon, obviously with Pink Floyd. So that was a long running thing. They
Right.
would have screenings of Rocky Horror Picture Show where people would throw toast at the stage, and so yeah, like a lot of
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I feel like in a way the kind of programming that Review does now fills this void
Mm.
left by like the closure of the Bloor Cinema and all these other rep cinemas, and especially after the Royal, because the Royal was
Yeah.
like really like that was the theater for
Hmm.
all kinds of stuff. They had all kinds of premieres, and they would even do like like little Italian film festivals over a weekend. But then they also had all the cool genre stuff, and they had
Yeah.
this really like diverse programming team. They had
Hmm.
this series called Black Gold, which was run by Sarah Ty Black, who's you might know her work. She's like a film writer and critic for the Globe and Mail and various things.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
yeah, look her up. She's really great. Sarah Ty Black. Yeah, they had the series. Well, Neon Dreams Cinema Club, which
Yeah.
was one of their probably most popular series, which is now at the Review, which is
Hmm.
like a neo noir series. That's where that series got started. Stomp Box, run by Dave Bertrand, which is like a sort of music on film kind of series. They show a lot of like music docs and music adjacent kind of films and whatnot. So
Mm.
yeah, really when the Royal closed down during the like because of the pandemic,
Right.
obviously it never really was the same theater after they controversially decided to turn their lobby into like a wine bar slash bodega. Um,
Yeah.
and, you know, they
Yeah.
really,
It's
they also
wild.
didn't inform any of their staff or programming team that they were going to do this.
Oh.
And
Okay. I
so they
didn't know
all
that.
found out on social media,
Uh.
and so people were kind of just like, what's this mean for the Royal, And then
Right. Right.
it became very apparent that it was not going to be the same cinema after the
Yeah.
pandemic ended, and they stopped doing public movie screenings because I guess maybe some people don't know this, but the Royal primarily makes its revenue from being a sort of audio mixing facility.
Yeah.
So that's its primary income. Being like a cool rep cinema was just something they did because they're a theater and it just made sense. But I think there was not a lot of I shouldn't speak too ill of the Royal because it's not I don't want to talk shit about other theaters, but I
Hmm.
do know that a lot of the programming team there were not very happy and there was quite a bit of
I can
drama,
imagine.
and
Yeah.
so I think yeah, after the pandemic it just wasn't really worth the stress or the work for them to do it,
Hmm.
especially when they were probably just even breaking even on a lot of these screenings with the the cost of the staff and the licensing and distribution and all that stuff. So
Right, right.
they're like, yeah, we're just going to be like a expensive bottle shop now, and we can just keep doing this thing. So yeah, that really left a
Yeah,
huge void in the city for this kind of stuff. And so Review just kind of stepped up and filled that void in a certain way, but then also kind of
right.
offered something new. Like if you look at a lot of the programming at Review before the pandemic, or at least for the last decade or so, I think there was a bit more. They would show a lot of like old Hollywood stuff, a lot of silent film, because there was a little bit of an
Mm,
older audience, in
okay.
that kind of Roncesvalles, High Park area. So
Yeah,
they really liked a lot of old cinema, a lot of dramas, a lot of art house films, Ingmar Bergman and whatnot. And they
right.
still screen that stuff, but if you look at the programming now, it's way more focused on, like 80s and 90s and thousands and a lot of
Hmm.
like, uh cult classics, but also mainstream classics,
Yeah.
like they're, selling out screenings of like Die Hard and Predator, but then they're also showing weird Bollywood horror and all kinds of random stuff, So I
Yeah.
think what was really smart of Review and their manager Serena, and they also have an incredible board of directors. Not a lot of people know like Review is a not for profit. We're run by a volunteer board of directors,
Okay.
and I don't like the team that they have. Are just I think they're just really smart people from different backgrounds that have put a lot of effort, um, and actually a lot of analytics goes into this surprisingly, but they put a lot of effort into ensuring Review is successful. And
Hmm.
granted, it's only like a 236 seat theater, so
Mm,
we are selling out a lot of screenings, but also other theaters uh, like I don't know, like the Royal or the Hot Docs, they have like more than 400 or 500 seats, right? So it's a little bit more challenging to kind of sell, like
okay.
fill up those spaces,
Yeah.
um, and people like to talk about millennials and Gen, what is it, Gen Y, Z, Gen, what is it, Gen
Which one?
Z? There's millennials and then there's Gen Z. People
Yeah,
people
yeah.
people often bring up how Gen Z is not really going to the movies a lot, and even like
Yeah.
multiplexes are struggling, which is kind of shocking.
Yeah.
And we could go on and on about the factors as to why that's reality, but
Yeah.
um, the fact that Review was sort of able to kind of crack this code to get younger people to the theater,
Hmm.
I think was just really brilliant. And it's if you go to a screening at the Review, it's a like you were at Kung Fu Rascals, I think last
Yeah. Yeah.
Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago, and like
Last Saturday. Yeah.
yeah, it was last Saturday, and
Yeah.
I remember seeing the audience, and it's like I've seen like there's like tweens in the first like couple rows, and
Oh, okay.
um, it's a mix. It's a pretty broad audience
Hmm.
and age gap. So just the fact that
Yeah.
they're able to get the young cinephiles and then the old movie buffs and sort of anyone willing to go to a theater in between, I think has ensured our success.
Mm.
And a strong programming team,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and we also listen to our audience, like what they want to see. We get a lot of requests and emails, like, and there's all the individual programmers as well. They're bringing a lot of different stuff to the table, and yeah, just a lot of fun themed events. They've got Not So Terrible Twos, which is sequels, and we've got When Animals Attack, and
Mm.
these are all just like the in-house series. We've also got like Nightmare Alley, which is the
Horror.
horror series
Yeah.
there, which
Yeah.
just they have incredible picks every month.
Yeah.
There's Black Belt Cinema that I do. We've got Paid and Sweat, which is like a sports themed series. Neon Dreams. We Really Like Her. I'm gonna feel bad if I don't list every single series there, so I'm just gonna stop right there. But
Okay.
um, that I mean, there's a lot of other ones. I just don't want to forget them all. I'll give them all
Yeah.
shout outs throughout the course of the episode. But yeah,
But yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons why I wanted to ask you about all this is because for me, it's like sounds like a dream to be like a film programmer of like
yeah,
curating something like this every month. And I also wonder if maybe someone listening to this that like lives in a city with a tiny theater or something, if they could maybe get some kind of tips on like how to get into that, you
yeah.
know? And for you, like you had a pretty it sounds like you had a pretty thorough build into doing it at the Review. You built
Hmm.
an audience
Mhm.
you know? And then it was just a matter of, oh, actually, I'm ready to move that audience into a bigger theater. Do you think it's even possible for someone to kind of start from the beginning in a theater, or do they need to kind of find a smaller venue and slowly build it from there?
That's a good question. I think it is possible for someone to start off as a film programmer at a theater. I mean, it's possible, but I would say that most theaters that do bring on programmers, they're pretty specific about what they want, and they probably wouldn't necessarily take on a series that's something they could just do on their own. So
Ah,
I would say I don't know a lot of people that just started programming in the theater right away.
yeah.
I think that there's a lot of stepping stones you could take to getting there.
Okay.
And obviously everyone has their own path. And like I hear about Revue, they get pitches all the time from people that want to program there, right? Because it's like, yeah, who doesn't want to be a film programmer, right? It would be awesome to show movies to like packed theaters, right? But there's only so many spots available, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I would say if you don't have the luxury of just walking into a theater and hoping you'll get hired as a programmer, do not let that stop you from showing movies to
Mm,
anyone. You can, like, I'm a firm believer of DIY, do it yourself, and it's just like being in a band. Like you don't have to wait around for a promoter or a festival to invite you to play a show. You don't have to like pitch yourself to them either. You can just start doing it yourself. Like I literally just started showing movies in a parking lot, and it just went from there. Like if you organize an event that you've got a good movie and you're providing an interesting context to it in an interesting environment, whether it's a bar, whether it's a parking lot or a field somewhere. There's a lot of interesting ways you can present that film, um, and people are always looking for new experiences, especially within the context of film. I, as an aging cinephile, like we often get a little bit jaded, I think, and we're always looking for new things, and we're also looking to like rediscover old gems as well. And so I think
mm,
this is where programmers play such an important role, because it's just we live in a sea of media and information, and everything's readily available on streaming services and Tubi and BitTorrent and video stores and stuff like that. So I don't know, finding your way through all that. This is where curation is so important. And
right.
so I think if you have an interesting perspective and you have good taste and knowledge and experience, or just you don't even have to have any of those things. You just have to be passionate about film, and you have to be passionate about community and
Mm.
experiencing that with other people. Because I don't know about you, but like I love watching movies at home, but I don't know, sitting in a theater or
Oh,
anywhere,
yeah.
even if I'm just with like a friend or two in someone's living room, or whether I'm with hundreds of people at the review, like that experience of the film is just amplified and elevated to just such a heightened level. Like
Yeah.
you get hit with that dopamine and the adrenaline and the laughter and the cheering and applause. Like that's just like I don't know. That's why I really
Yeah.
wanted to get into what I do now. So yeah, I would
Yeah.
say just start doing it yourself. Whether there's
Hmm.
a lot of bars that have been investing in like projectors and screens. There's spaces like Cinecycle, which you can book for just $200. So if you can
Oh,
get,
okay. I didn't know that. Yeah.
yeah, $200, and if you can get 20 people to pay $10, you've covered your expense.
Mm.
And those kinds of spaces are great too because you can go in there. There's cheap drinks, and you're in this weird alleyway and a bicycle repair shop watching stuff on
Yeah.
16 millimeter. Um, so yeah, I would say just do it. Like, and it's tough, because I even when I was doing screenings at Dundas Video or even Eyesore, like I would get deterred because like, oh shit, only 10 people came out, or 15. Like,
Mm.
you get 20 people and you're like, wow, what a good night, but then it's tough because you put so much work into it. I would often
Yeah.
I would edit like an event trailer that would take me hours to do. I would design a poster. That's how I got into design, just out of necessity to just have to promote these events, right? And
Wow.
yeah, so you're putting all this work into it, and it can get very discouraging when you don't see the results of that. But
Mm.
after having done this for the last like 5 years or so, like really, it's slow but surely. And when you do start to connect with your audience, or not even your audience, like just the community, when you start to connect with these other people, like it, I don't know, it really hits differently than just sitting at home watching a movie.
Oh,
You don't have, yeah.
100%. Yeah. So if you're doing a screening at, say, like a bar or maybe even
Mhm.
Cinecycle, you probably don't have to worry about the licensing necessarily. And that's
Yeah.
something I'm really curious about for you doing a screening at the Review. Does that then like also play into like what you can actually curate? I mean, I'm sure it's not just a matter of like, oh, the entire library of all film is open to what I can play. So can you walk me through that process a bit?
Yeah, 100. This is like a very common question people ask me about, like, what is it like being a film programmer, and what is the whole
Mm.
there's this whole mystery about how do you book films and the distribution
Yeah.
companies and studios. So, and to
Yeah.
be honest, like it's still something I'm a little bit in the dark myself because I'm very lucky because at Review, our programming director does all of this work. So I
Oh,
basically am just
nice.
like, I want to screen this movie, and then she has to do all the work, all the legwork of finding, okay, who owns this movie, who owns, because it's easy to, like, people often are like, oh, are you going to screen the Seventh Curse? I just saw Vinegar Syndrome released it, and I'll
Oh,
have to be
yeah.
like, oh yeah, okay, so yeah, there is this amazing 2K or 4K release of it. I would love to screen it, but theatrical rights versus what is it? What would you call it? Licensing rights for
Oh,
physical.
right.
Yeah, totally different things. Um,
Okay.
so some a company might own the physical and licensing rights for a company to, and this is why multiple labels can all have like the same different releases of the same film because they're just paying to license this film and release
Yeah.
it physically. So those rights are often very different from theatrical distribution rights. And
Sure.
so you a a lot of times the rights, we might be working directly with Universal or Sony
Mm.
or Disney or uh, MGM or Fox. I mean, some of these companies own those other companies now, I'm sure, but um, so booking like studio films is normally quite easy in terms of getting those rights.
Oh, okay.
Um, you know, but it is a little bit more difficult to screen this, like the slightly more obscure stuff. Um,
Sure.
like there's a lot of films I want to screen that I can't find the rights to,
Okay.
or they're just too expensive because we're like a small rep cinema. We're not like a big multiplex that can like show this movie
Yeah.
three times a day for 2 weeks and recoup our costs. We can show it once, maybe twice if we're lucky. If it sells out quickly, we can add a second date or a second screening. Um, and so, yeah, it is tricky finding those rights sometimes. I am very limited to that because not every cinema is like this, but I will say Review is very, I would say, strict about making sure they can legally screen a movie
Mm.
because you might show something that you thought no one owned the rights to, like Lady Terminator. We couldn't find the rights to it. It does
Oh,
have like, I literally don't think there is a company that exists that actually owns that film that you can license it from.
really?
Yeah, like I.
Well, it's funny you say that because today I saw something on Facebook about it. How AGFA, I believe,
Mhm.
has a print of it,
Oh
and
yeah,
people were like, "Oh, are they going to put out a Blu-ray?" And then
yeah.
Jared from Mondo Macabro was like, "Well, if they did that, we'll issue them a cease and desist." So
Oh, okay.
I think it's
Yeah,
AGFA that maybe has
yeah,
the print. Is
yeah.
that kind of the same thing that we're talking about?
Yeah, so AGFA, I just call them AGFA for short, the American
Oh,
Video Film
okay,
Archive.
yeah, yeah.
I actually I like we Review and Black Belt Cinema licenses a lot of films from them because
Cool.
they've been really great about. They're also an archival company, and
Right.
they do own a lot of prints. They have a massive library of prints. because they're also
Mm.
preservationists, and they provide distribution for a lot of these prints in the form of what's called a DCP, which stands for Digital
Right.
Cinema Package. So when you go to, Cineplex or a multiplex or any theater, if it's not being screened on 35 millimeter, which is 99% of the time, you're watching a DCP, which is basically
Yeah.
just like a very large, high res digital format that's made specifically for modern digital projectors. Um,
Okay.
so, yeah, a lot of times you have to license the film, and the studio will send you a DCP. It
Hmm.
might come, basically, would come as like a hard drive, essentially. And other times, it's funny too because okay, Sony, you own the rights to this film, can you send us a DCP? And we're like, yes, we own the rights and you have to pay us for it, but we actually don't have a DCP of this. So yeah, you can technically screen it, but we can't provide you with anything for it. And you're like, oh, okay. Um, and so,
Okay.
I will say there are ways of making your own DCP
Okay.
from
Sure.
a
Sure.
Blu-ray. I'm not
Yeah.
going to, I can not confirm nor deny that my theater does that or any other theater does that, but you can technically make a DCP yourself. Um,
Okay.
using whatever conversion software. So yeah, theaters do have to do that sometimes. It's not like we're just sticking in a fucking DVD and pressing play, which we've been accused of by another theater. I won't say any names, but I think you probably know what I'm talking about.
Oh.
Um,
So
yeah,
DCP, that's
TCP.
generally what you guys do.
Yeah,
Now, on a personally speaking, though, do you prefer seeing a 35 millimeter print to DCP? I mean, I know a lot of people that are purists are like, "Oh my god, they're playing the 35
yeah,
tonight." I don't really care that much. I've seen
yeah,
some shitty 35s where I'm like, you know
yeah.
what,
No,
DCP
there's
is fine.
yeah. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine with DCP. I especially because when you're going to see a movie, there's one train of thought that thinks, yeah, you want to see the best version possible in terms of like highest resolution and sound quality. And yeah, you're not going to get
Yeah.
that from a 16 or 35 millimeter print, but what you are going to get is all these amazing textures and grain and dirt, and the fact that this print has been seen by hundreds or thousands of people over the years, and it's the same print. It's like the same, like vinyl versus CD or digital. Like
Yeah.
it has this tangible history behind it. And I don't know if you grew up like in the 80s or 90s, like I did, like that's just kind of the way film looks to me. Like going to see a movie, like that just reminds me
Sure.
of not even what film looks like, but that's kind of how reality looked to me, like in terms of like how I
Mm,
remember my childhood and stuff like that. So when I see
yeah.
film on film, it just has that nostalgic sense. Like it's something you can't quite put
Yeah.
into words.
I know what you're talking about because I went to the 35 of Heat that they had at the review.
Yeah, I wanted
Was
to
it
go to
like
that. Yeah,
2 weeks ago or
yeah, it
something?
was pretty
2 or 3 weeks
recently. Yeah.
ago, and the like distinct feeling it gave me was
Mhm.
actually of being at the drive-in when I was a
Oh
kid.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, something about the way it looked was just like, "Oh, I feel like I'm at the drive-in again
yeah.
watching a film how it was, projected at the drive-in." I
Yeah.
don't know why, but
No, it
yeah.
it makes sense, yeah, because we have that association, right? And I think that's often the
Mhm.
experience we're chasing as film lovers, like that feeling of like, seeing Big Trouble in Little China for the first time as a kid. I think we're always kind
Yeah,
of chasing after that feeling and that experience. And I think 35 millimeter is able to, check that box off in a way that digital doesn't necessarily do every time.
right.
I would,
Have
yeah,
have you played Big Trouble in Little China at one of the Black Belt screenings?
I actually haven't. I do know that I think Drunken Cinema has screened it before,
Oh, okay, okay.
and it's something I would consider for Black Bolt Cinema. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like I do try to pick movies that aren't necessarily obscure, but I try to pick stuff that like hasn't necessarily screened locally in the last 3 to 5 years,
Okay, that's fair.
or because like I like even like the Cinesphere, I think screened Big Trouble in Little China within the
Oh, I
last
missed
five
that.
years, and um, I try to pick things that maybe people have not had the opportunity to see recently, or at least maybe even ever, I guess, is ideally. But um,
Mm,
yeah, I would love to do more 35 millimeter screenings, but I mean, you probably know they're very expensive to book
yeah.
because you're looking at anywhere between $500 to $700 just to ship the print itself because they come in these large, heavy metal canisters, and
Right.
so the shipping fee on that is crazy. And because you have to pay for it to get shipped to the review, then you have to get paid to ship it back to the studio, and then on top of that, you also still have to pay the licensing fee to the distributor. So, you
Mm,
know, once basically with those costs in mind, you're basically just going to break even unless you have like a sponsor, which we're fortunate a lot of our event series are able to find these sponsors that will, cover the costs of shipping the print, and then that way that the theater and the programmer can make a little bit of money for the work they put into it, right? So like
oh, great.
Neon Dream Cinema Club, I feel like they show a 35 millimeter print like almost every month, and they have a sponsorship from Hollywood Suite, which is a
Oh,
great
right.
streaming service and channel and stuff. So yeah, they're able to cover those costs, and people show up for those screenings. It doesn't even matter what movie you're showing. Like if it's on 35 millimeter, like people will line up out the door
Right.
for that
Yeah.
because people are crazy about film in the city. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would like to screen more, but they're very expensive. I am able to, on average, screen one 16 or 35 millimeter print a year.
Okay.
So far to date, I've only been able to show three. So the first print I was able to show was actually Lady Terminator, and
Oh,
I
nice.
and the reason why, normally if we can't find the rights to something, we generally won't screen it because you never know, someone might chase after you 6 months down the line and being like, you owe me $2,000 for this movie you screened 6 months ago, or 2 years
Yeah.
ago. So
Yeah.
we try to avoid problems like that. But if there's a print available, there's a little bit of wiggle room. So basically,
Mm.
I was able to track down this print of Lady Terminator because I realized someone had mentioned it to me that it had screened at the what was it called, the Toronto Underground Cinema. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that used to be
Yeah.
on Spadina, which was famously
Mhm.
I think a former Golden Harvest cinema.
Oh,
There used to be at least two, maybe three in Toronto. There was two just on Spadina alone. There was the one. It's now a indoor rock climbing gym
Oh,
uh,
weird.
in the basement of this uh, place on Spadina, and then there's a Rex Hall at the northeast corner of Dundas and Spadina. That also used to be one of the old Golden Harvest cinemas. So
Oh, right, right.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, I knew it had screened at the Toronto Underground Cinema, and then it turns out Peter Kaplowski had a
Right.
copy of the print in his own personal collection. Peter Kaplowski's the curator of Midnight Madness for TIFF, obviously, and
Mhm.
very influential guy on a lot of the stuff I do now. Just I would go to a lot of
Yeah.
his. He had an amazing series. Well, I guess it's still going on. It's called Laser Blast Film Society that
Right.
he curates with Justin Decloux of the Important Cinema Club and Gold Ninja Video. So yeah, he had a print, and yeah, he gave it to me for a very cheap price, and
Mm.
literally had to go get it from his mom's basement and drop it off to Revue,
I love
which
it.
is really nice of him. And yeah, he was
Yeah.
able to basically, if we can show Revue that we've done our due diligence trying to track down the rights to something, if we can't find them and it doesn't seem like they exist or it's so obscure that
Yeah.
no one's going to care, we will screen something if there's a print available, because it'd be a shame not to, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I
Um,
was also gonna say he produces a lot of great films too. Like
oh yeah,
in a violent nature, I believe he was one of the producers for
absolutely
that.
loved
So
that film. I really love that film. I
mhm.
think he was also a producer on Psycho Gorman.
Right, yeah.
I
He
know
does
he
the Steve
was.
Kostansky stuff.
Yeah, he's
I
very
think that's his
involved with.
name, yeah.
Yeah, Stephen Kostansky,
Mm,
formerly of Astron 6. Yeah, Peter's such a film dynamo, in terms of
yeah.
programming and producing, and just a really charming, intelligent guy. Yeah.
So I met him for the first time in 2006.
Okay.
when I played my first show doing like a solo noise project,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and he just so happened to be at the event.
Hmm.
I think it was like a Tad show,
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
Tad,
yeah, yeah.
and it was all like video game inspired music.
Like that, specific show or the project you were involved
Oh no,
with?
no, the show
Yeah.
was that. So I
Okay.
think in order to get on the bill, I just said it was video game inspired, but I
Okay.
just stole
Yeah.
a I took a
Yeah.
sample of like a video game score and
It's
then
not hard to
and
do,
played
right?
it.
Like
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I played it
yeah.
for like 10 seconds and then immediately started banging a
Yeah,
mic on
just,
a pot, like the distortion
as one
pedal.
does. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
That sounds like an average, Tad show.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think his series is called Burn Down the Capitol, Presents or
Right.
whatever. Yeah, he also curated the Feast in the East and,
Hmm.
Tone Festival, I think, is one of the ones he still does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a legend.
Oh,
But
huge
yeah,
legend. Yeah.
I remember meeting Peter though after the show, and he's like, "Oh, I've never seen anything like this before. I'm gonna try to get you on Midnight Madness like after party or something."
Nice. Yeah.
Never panned out. Never
Yeah.
spoke to him again. But you know what? I should use that anecdote to try to get him on the show.
Oh, I feel like he would do it for sure. And that anecdote would be a good, entry into that, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah, I would love to
He
see
probably
him.
won't remember, but
You never know. You never know.
yeah.
But yeah, that's I didn't know you had that funny, connection with him. That's cool. Yeah, his brother's a musician, Luca.
Oh,
Um, does more like kind of, folk guitar, singer songwriter stuff. Yeah,
cool.
Luka, I think.
Okay,
And there's
sounds
another
familiar.
Kaplowski brother too. Eric Kaplowski. I'm not sure what he does, but I bought a random Michael Dudikoff VHS tape off him at a. I think it was at the
Okay.
what Peter used to have this event called What the Film
Hmm.
Festival. I'm sure maybe he still does it, but they had like a What the Film market. I don't know if it was at Super Wonder Gallery or something like that, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, I don't know. Great guy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
going back to the Lady Terminator, since
Right. Yeah.
that's how Peter Kaplowski came into the conversation. So
Mhm.
that screening, it is kind of, to be fair, it is kind of more of an obscure film.
Yep.
Was it still like fairly well attended?
Yeah, it was. I think this was only still in Black Belt Cinema's first or second year.
Okay.
I mean, it was year two actually. So our first year was interesting because we were still building a audience at Revue, and I think Revue was also still building its kind of core audience, which is just ballooned into what it is now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did Lady Terminator, which is not necessarily, it doesn't scream black belt cinema because there's not really any like martial arts or stuff, but it's just to me it has the spirit of black belt cinema in that it's just balls to the wall crazy and psychotronic and
Yeah.
just full of amazing action and effects. And I'm just really obsessed with the Queen of the South Sea, myth,
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
from Indonesian folklore and stuff, and it's obviously been the, uh, plot point for many Indonesian and Southeast Asian, horror and action films.
Other than the Devil's Sword, which you recommended I watch for
Yeah.
this, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, you liked it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I love pretty much all Indonesian horror I've seen.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only one that I didn't really like was, I think it's called Srigala, which is sort of like a Friday 13th ripoff.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of boring, but
Mm.
everything else is fantastic because they have such a kitchen sink approach to
Oh
their
god.
films.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so other than Lady Terminator and the Devil's Sword, like what are the other films that feature that folklore?
Yeah. There's also, well, I was talking earlier about Kraitong. Um,
Right? Okay.
and that is also kind of inspired by the South Sea Queen. There's also
Mm,
one that's just called Queen of the South Sea, which is like a little bit more contemporary. I think it came out in the thousands or something like that. Um, there's also, oh man, I'm trying to look up some right now. I actually wrote like a zine about this subject too, which is why I'm
oh
kicking
my
myself.
god.
But I'll get you a copy of it,
Oh, sweet.
later. But yeah, I would say like Lady Terminator is and Devil's Sword are probably the two most popular
Okay.
ones, based on that.
Yeah. So you mentioned you wrote it for a zine. Was it for film fuckers?
I would do these zine sort of like programs whenever I would do these outdoor screenings. So
Oh wow.
I would just include like a short article about the film we were watching and maybe some of the other filmmakers' works or stuff within that genre. So
Mm.
yeah, I just did a little article on The Devil's Sword and some of the other films, from those kind of crazy Indonesian genre films and other ones related to the South Sea Queen.
Yeah, so I mean, zines are generally
Yeah.
something I think people associate with like, music, mainly like hardcore punk and everything. Were
Yeah.
you someone that did zines a lot like growing up?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Okay, another
Okay.
South Sea Queen movie, The Snake Queen. That's another one. And
Okay.
Awakening of the South Seas Queen. Anyway, sorry, back to the question that you asked me. Yeah, I was into zines and stuff in my teens and 20s. I was vegan for a long time, and I was getting
Mm.
like, really into macrobiotics, which is
Oh
I
wow.
guess it's sort of
Okay.
it's kind of an I know we're
I
not going
don't
to
know
talk.
why
I'm
that's
not going to
funny.
give
I'm
you a lecture
sorry.
about macrobiotic.
Okay.
It is funny. It is funny.
Okay. Yeah,
Macrobiotics is
yeah.
basically kind of approaching food and diet from almost like a sense of yin and yang. So it's kind
Okay.
of about like
Huh.
eating seasonally. So like for example, in the winter,
Mm.
you want to eat more yang foods, which is contractive. So you want to eat more starchy vegetables and meats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's going to keep you, full longer. And in the summer, you want to eat more yin foods, which is more expansive. So a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's really just about balance. It's connected to like shiatsu and meridian lines and energy and chi and all that stuff.
Okay.
So I was very into macrobiotics at the time and vegan food. So I started a
Ah.
zine about those subjects, and it was called The Healthy Ninja. And
Okay, that's cute.
it did have a bit of like a DIY punk flyer kind of aesthetic to it. It was all it was all made with like a Xerox photocopier and
Mhm.
glue sticks and scissors and a lot of tape and that kind of
Okay.
stuff. So I was
Yeah.
into those kinds of zines. I also would go to a lot of Toronto's very great for zine culture. We have the Toronto Zine Library on the I think it's the second floor of the Transac on Brunswick
Right. Where
Avenue.
I got married.
Oh, you got married there? Yeah,
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, it's great
Mhm.
venue, great event space.
Mhm.
I'm going to be there actually this Saturday for an event called Paper Jam, which is
Oh, cool.
a zine festival put on by the Toronto Zine Library. So yeah,
Sweet.
I would also go to events like Canzine that was hosted by Broken Pencil, and
Mm.
there's also Zine Dream, which is a long running
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
series. So I like a lot of like that small press kind of writings and arts and prints and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's always something
Mhm.
I've gravitated towards and definitely was influential in doing like the zines I did for the outdoor screenings I do and with film fuckers now. So
Yeah.
yeah, zine DIY culture very influential on my work and stuff. Yeah,
And then you also make posters and t-shirts. Like
yeah.
I'm really like Brandon, like what's your secret? I'm
um,
so what?
okay, yeah. I people do are always like, how do you do all these things? A combination of like out of necessity. I just started I never really had much of a personal interest in graphic design.
Okay.
I did.
Right.
I mean, but I'm sure you're someone like me that's just grown up just looking at movie posters and
Mhm.
VHS covers, and I have an appreciation for that stuff. Like I don't have a big knowledge of art history or design history really, but as someone that hosts and promotes events, it was kind of a necessity to do my own posters, and
Cool.
I didn't want to do a shit job of it, so I
Yeah. But you know so many people that are visual artists. I'm surprised you didn't
yeah.
just like hit up an amazing artist friend of yours,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. I do that. I've gotten Michael DeForge, who's a friend, to do a couple. He did a heroic trio poster for me and stuff. And it really depends on budget too, because I like to pay people for their art, obviously.
Oh,
So,
true. Yeah.
I can definitely find Revue's really good. They help the programmer costs related to promotion. So they'll pay for the poster prints, and they'll give you they'll pay a percentage of what you pay or commission an artist to do, which is and another reason
Mhm.
Review is so successful is because they have all these amazing original art posters and trailers, which I
Yeah.
think just takes it to that next level. And just we get a lot of international recognition too, just for our poster art and cool like event trailers and stuff that Nathan Boone
Awesome.
cuts. So um, yeah, I got into design because of that, but also I ended up having a lot of free time during the pandemic, so I just spent
Mm.
hours on YouTube just watching tutorials on how to use Photoshop and Illustrator and how to use video editing software to make trailers and that kind of stuff. And um,
Yeah.
I'd like to think that eventually, I got, in the early days, you're just literally taking a random movie poster and then you're just putting a date on it. And
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
that's fine, but I obviously wanted to create something that was a little bit more original and stood out aesthetically, and something that like I was personally happy with because I'm pretty picky about that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure the posters actually look good. So I taught myself a bit of basic design stuff during the pandemic. Um, and then it started to take off. Like I was mainly just doing posters for my own events and the zines and stuff I did. But then, yeah, I started getting commissioned by other film programmers, not just at Review, but I've done posters for the Westdale Cinema in Hamilton. They do a series called
Mm.
Kaiju Summer every year, where they screen Godzilla, Gamera, Daimajin type films. And I've done theaters for I like to help like support and promote other theaters in Toronto too, like the Paradise. And I've done a lot of event posters for like Weird Alice's Drag Me to the Movies series. And
Right.
I've been really lucky enough to do a poster for Eastern Promises, which is one of my favorite series in the city. I did a Itchy the Killer poster, and we did a fun risograph print of it from that Color Code Printing made. And
Mhm.
um, yeah, and it's crazy some of the opportunities that have come my way just from doing these random like posters. I did the uh, I did an actual official movie poster for Wu Tang Clan, who put out
Mm.
they put out a concert, a live concert film, Wu Tang. I think it's called a Wu Tang Experience, live at Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Oh,
And
cool.
I've been doing some graphic design for this guy Christopher Speller. He used to have a series in North Carolina called Black Kung Fu Cinema, um,
Mm.
and it's now evolved into this festival called Three Chambers Festival. And it's sort of this festival that celebrates the Black experience in everything from like martial arts to anime and video games.
Mm.
Um, so it has this really like interesting, vibrant community of I think they call themselves blurds, like black nerds. Um,
Okay.
and so I connected with him and started doing event posters and trailers for some of his events. I really love what they were doing down there. And he just happened to be working with this guy, Gerald Watson, who is a longtime Wu Tang Clan affiliate. He directed a number of their music videos, and he directed this concert film for them. And they did a screening of it um, at Three Chambers Fest in North Carolina at I think it's a place called the Princess Cinemas or something like that. And it was a
Oh,
small
wow.
screening, but I did the event poster for it, and the director and RZA apparently really liked it because I got this email from Chris being like, "Yo, like RZA really loves this poster, and
Nice.
I think he wants to like use it as the official movie poster." I'm just like, okay, sure. Like, I'll believe that when it happens. And then I woke up the
Yeah.
next day, and then RZA had shared it on his Instagram.
Oh my
And
god,
I was
that's
just like,
amazing.
yeah, it was kind of mind blowing. And then it actually panned out. Yeah, they got me to sort of modify it. It's the actual movie poster. I had to do the whole layout for it. Got distribution from PBS, so it's on the PBS network in the States. I think it's still finding distribution in Canada, but it did screen
Okay.
here last summer. Dave from Stompbox screened it, and we brought the director up and everything like that. So it was really cool.
Awesome.
Um, so yeah, it's led to some interesting opportunities, and
Yeah.
um,
And then it just naturally grew into you doing clothes then, like t-shirts
yes,
and stuff.
yeah, it
Okay.
just I think I also just really was into screen. I just started to get really interested in screen printing and a lot of the cool. I mean, there's so many, but like a lot of really cool bootleg clothing companies
Totally.
doing a lot of like movie and music merch. And I got really inspired by companies like Body Bags Horror, and
He's been on here before.
I think that's how I
Yeah.
discovered your podcast because I saw the guy from Two Mold and Body Bags, Payson, who's now a
Payson,
friend.
yeah.
I didn't know him at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
time, but I met him at the Revue recently. He's a really great guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw he was on your show. I think actually the guy that screen prints my clothing, Jacob Horwood, who runs
Yeah,
Private
longtime friend,
Press.
yeah.
Oh, you're friends with him. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, he's great.
he had posted something about Payson being on the show, and I was like, oh, cool. Like I'm gonna check out this guy's show, and that's how I started following you. And so yeah, I was really
Yeah.
inspired by that, and Rucking Fodden. What's his
Mm.
name? I think he used to go by Bonehead, but now goes by Freak Complex.
Oh,
Christian.
I don't know him.
You've probably seen his stuff. He does a lot of bootleg punk shirts, but he also does shirts for like Videodrome and Scanners and all kinds of fun movie
Sweet.
bootlegs. So yeah, I was just really inspired by those companies, and I just had this really good idea to do um, a shirt for the movie Johnny Mnemonic, which
Mm.
I've kind of been obsessed with since I was a teenager, and notoriously, it takes place during 2021, and in the film there's a global pandemic happening.
Oh
So
my
I was
god.
just like, oh my god, like I've always wanted to do a design for that film, and I'm obsessed with Keanu Reeves, and I like William Gibson's work, and I just really had this cool design idea to do for Johnny Mnemonic, and so I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. And yeah, I ended up, I think that was my first shirt design. We did like a 4 location long sleeve, and um yeah, I just spent hours on it, and I don't know like I'm fortunate now because I can do these screenings and also sell shirts of the movie at the event and stuff. But back then I just did it for fun. I just did a run of like 20 or 30, and
Mhm.
I didn't have a website or a store. I wasn't even tabling at markets or anything. It was all just word of mouth, and I ended up selling shirts to like people that actually worked on the film, and
Oh, wow.
uh like yeah, it was eventually like I was mailing that shirt off to people in Montreal, and then New York. I sent one to like some guy in Australia, and so I was like, "Well, this is like something I could do." And
Mhm.
I was obviously looking for new side hustles because some of us were on CERB and government assistance and
Uh,
stuff, and I was just like, I should start. I need a new side hustle, and designing and
yeah.
selling shirts was something that was fun and creative, and actually helped pay the bills. So it's just something I kept doing, and mainly for
Hell yeah.
myself. And then yeah, I started getting commissioned by other people to do movie shirts for their events. I've done a couple band shirts as well, which is a little bit more challenging because with the movie stuff, I have so many visual references I can use because I'm not an illustrator. Um,
Mm.
I do have a bit of a drawing art background from when I was younger, but it's not something I have really applied much in the design stuff I do now. It's something I want to, I have to get a Wacom tablet and start drawing stuff next. But yeah, I don't consider myself an illustrator. I'm a designer. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was really fun to start working on these shirts, and I've even done some officially licensed ones now. Like most of them have been bootlegs, but I recently did a officially licensed Terminator design for Bitbot
Mm.
Media.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I did actually my first officially licensed design was for a Bollywood horror film called
Yeah.
Mahakal.
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 Mahakal. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that to me because I think I talked to you at the screening for that.
yeah,
It was my
yeah.
first time seeing any Bollywood horror,
Oh,
really, and
yeah.
that
I've
was
not seen a lot, but
fantastic.
the Ramsey House of Horror is it's a wild house. Let me tell you, very entertaining stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So with your like, I mean, it's a monthly screening series, Black Belt
Mhm.
Cinema. What kind of movies do you have kind of lined up for the next few months or so? And bear in
Yeah.
mind, this will be coming out probably. What are we? April, so
Yeah.
probably like late May, June or something.
Okay, cool.
So
Yeah. I do have some stuff lined up. Last year I was like, I had my whole entire year mapped out for 12 months.
wow.
This year I'm kind of just flying by on the seat of my teeth. I'm just kind of going month to month. Review, we have to submit our picks months in advance. So I think I'm booked up until July right now. So
Oh,
um,
okay.
I can tell you the next few screenings we've got. I'm doing this thing called Super 8 Spring, which
Mm,
was almost accidental actually, because the Kung Fu Rascal screening I did recently was, famously shot on Super 8, and
hmm.
was released by this Blu-ray label Visual Vengeance,
Yeah, yeah.
who do a lot of great work. I just happened to pick another film. I didn't do this on purpose, but I'm also screening a movie called Furious from
Yeah.
1984, which is another
Mm,
great like cult martial arts classic from the 80s. Um, Also happens to be shot on Super 8, so
yeah.
happy accident. This is sometimes intentional and unintentional, but if you really look closely, all my screenings have some kind of connective thread going into the next one.
Oh, cool.
And sometimes it's more obvious, sometimes less obvious. Um, so the connected thread between these two is that they were both shot on Super 8 and both released by Visual Vengeance recently.
Hmm.
So yeah, Furious is coming up. That's have you seen Furious?
No, I've heard about it though.
Yeah,
I've heard it's very fever dream
it's
esque.
very fever dreamy. There's very little dialogue. In fact,
Okay.
the majority of the dialogue in the film that takes place is from a like a talking pig. um, and it
Yes.
has this really weird like stock orchestral score
Hmm.
that's not really fitting for the film. And then there's this weird band in the film that's very modeled after Devo. Like they wear these kind of jumpsuits and
Love
these big
it.
shades, and so they just kind of randomly appear in the film. Yeah, it's very kind of fever dreamish and strange and somewhat mystical. Um,
Okay.
I Laser Blast, I think, screened it years and years ago at the Royal Cinema. So I'll be screening that Saturday, May 10th.
Mm.
Um, and June 7th, Revue has a new, it'll probably turn into an annual series. They used to do this thing called Full Moon's Eve, where they would do
Mm.
like an all day, like 12-hour werewolf marathon. But, there's only so many werewolf movies you could show. So I think
Yeah.
after 3 years, we're like, let's switch it to vampires. So
Mm.
it's called Revue's Fang-tastic Weekend, which is a play
Yeah.
on fantastic, if you couldn't figure that out. So this is going to be the inaugural Fang-tastic Weekend. These are not just
Yeah.
air quotes, but also fangs as well. So I imagine these teeth or these fingers are actually fangs. Fang-tastic Weekend. Um,
I got it.
um,
I got it.
you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah, for sure, for
So yeah,
sure.
anyways, I'm screening Encounters of the Spooky Kind,
Love it.
which is
Great movie.
Zhangxi hopping vampire film starring Sammo Hung.
Yeah.
And
One of the
yeah.
greatest ending, like
Oh
freeze frame
yeah. I
endings. Like,
The
wow.
best. I like you, I am also a sucker for abrupt freeze frame endings, and I can't think of a
Hmm.
better one than Encounters of the Spooky Kind.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sleepaway Camp would be up there
Oh,
for
okay.
me
No,
for
yeah,
different reasons.
that is way up.
Yeah.
My friend has a tattoo of that image
What?
of Angela
Oh my
and
god.
the penis. And this man also has three
Jesus.
children, so he's
Wow.
setting a good
Daddy, what's
example for
that? Yeah.
daddy. Yeah, Matthew Armstrong. If you're listening, shout out to you and your crazy sleepaway camp tattoo. I actually showed a picture of it to what's the actress
Oh, oh,
uh, Vanessa
uh,
Rose or something.
Felisa Rose.
Felicia Rose.
Yeah.
I met her at Shockstock in London,
Oh,
Ontario,
cool.
which is a fun like horror exploitation festival in London, Ontario, put on by is it Vagrancy Films. Um,
Okay.
yeah, she was there, and I was like, "My friend has a tattoo of you. It's crazy." And she's like, "This is not the first tattoo I've
Of
seen of
course
that,
not. Yeah.
but tell him I'm very impressed."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, anyways,
Mm. Can you
yeah,
reveal what July is?
yeah, totally. It's our annual summer screening of Miami Connection,
Right.
which
Yeah.
has turned into a yearly tradition for Black Belt Cinema. It's entering its fourth installment, its fourth year. That will be July 14th, which is a
Okay.
Saturday. And yeah, I literally put together a whole band called Dragon Sounds, dedicated to covering the songs from the film that Dragon Sound plays. So we
Hmm.
will be performing that as well. Um, yeah, great film. I'm sure you've probably seen it. One of
A few times. Yeah.
yeah, a few times, right? It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
endlessly rewatchable, endlessly quotable.
Yeah.
Famously, I think it was Draft House Films like first kind of big release. Really
Mm.
massive cult following, obviously formed from it. So yeah, we just decided to screen it every year, and it sells it every time. It's a fucking really funny. we not only play music beforehand, but there's a bit of musical theater. Like we do kind of sketches, and there's it's almost got a little bit rock opera-y. Um, so I don't know.
Sure.
It's really fun to work on, basically. So that's coming up July 14th, and then I skipped over another one actually. We've got two screenings in June actually because
Hmm.
there was the Revue Fantastic Weekend one, and then June 14th or 12th. Um, I actually haven't got the rights yet, but I am trying to get Magic Crystal, which is a Wong Jing film.
Oh, I
Um,
love that
yeah,
movie.
I'm really trying to get that one because one of the stars, Richard Norton, passed away recently. He's like
Okay.
a legendary Australian martial artist and actor. Probably most famous for being in a bunch of films with Cynthia Rothrock in the 80s and 90s. He started off as like a bodyguard to the stars, like he was the bodyguard for like ABBA and the Rolling Stones, and then he got into acting, and he's in a number of Hong Kong films with like Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung. Like I think he's in uh, Wheels on Meals or My Lucky Stars, City Hunter,
Okay.
bunch of other ones. And the fact that he's Caucasian and was able to work in the Hong Kong action scene, like with Sammo Hung, it's like really shows his level of skill because they don't just have anybody
Right.
on those kind of productions. Like you really need to be like at the top of your game for that.
Is he the like I would say the main villain in Magic Crystal, the
Yeah,
blonde guy?
yeah, that's
Okay.
100%
Oh,
him.
he's
Yeah,
fantastic.
he's
Yeah,
great,
he's
right? Yeah,
so
he's
good in
good.
that. Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
really good. Yeah.
Would there be any way that you could screen Future Cops?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Future Cops is a weird one because it uh it really infringes on Capcom's IP.
Oh, yes.
Because
Yes, it does.
so I don't know if the rights exist for it. Which
Oh, that's
maybe
true. Yeah.
it might make it easier to screen, but um
Oh.
Wong Jing famously, you could sort of look at him as I wouldn't call him a ripoff artist, but he certainly likes to pay tribute or capitalize on a lot of
Yeah.
cinema trends for a lot of the films that I think Magic Crystal was riffing on like Raiders of the Lost Ark or
Oh, maybe.
something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's famous for doing that, and he actually was trying to make a Street Fighter film.
Mhm.
Capcom decided not to give him the rights, and he just went and did it anyways because he's Wong Jing. Not
Yeah.
no one can stop him. So
Yeah. I love
um,
that movie too.
I would love to screen Future Cops. In fact, I'll try to get the rights. Screw it. Like
Okay.
I'll if I can get the
Sweet.
rights, and if not, I'll just do a DIY screening of it somewhere because that needs to be seen with
Mhm.
an audience for sure. Yeah, I think again, Laser Blast Film Society played at the Royal back in the day. Um,
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't
Probably one
know
of those
that.
screenings. Yeah, I'm 99% sure they did.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a good man. What a time.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
days. Yeah, I really miss those screenings.
Is Magic Crystal that's gonna be at the Royal as well?
At the Review, yeah.
Oh,
If
sorry,
I
the
can,
review.
oh
Wow, wow. Yeah.
no, it's
We're
funny.
stuck in that mindset, yeah.
People mix our names up all the time. Andy from Vinegar Syndrome uh,
Mhm.
referred to. He was on Serena's podcast, Movies and Chaos, and he kept referring to Review as the Royal. She had to keep correcting him. I've done it myself too, to be honest. So yeah,
Yeah.
all good. They both start with R and they're two syllables. So
Wow. Well, it's
yeah,
like they passed the baton in a way, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, we are getting well into an hour 20,
Yep.
and we do have a questionnaire left.
Okay.
So we should wrap up soon if that's
Sure.
cool with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
But yeah, this was fantastic. You had so much amazing information. Hearing the whole origin story of Black Belt's cinema was like fascinating. And I honestly can picture a lot of people who've never even been to Toronto hearing
Mhm.
that and being like, wow, that's really inspiring. I wonder if I
Yeah.
could do something like that where I live. So yeah, before we move to the questionnaire, is there anything like you want to plug or?
I would say this is coming out in May. I don't know. Come to a Black Ball Cinema screening.
Of
Oh,
course.
if you're actually, yeah, if you're around in June, there's an amazing band called Voyager 3.
Hmm.
They're from Detroit, and they're I think they're self-described as like sci-fi action film soundtrack music.
Okay.
They did the score, the original score for New York Ninja. which is
Mm.
one of Vinegar Syndrome's releases. Um, they also recently did the score for a horror film called Killer Cabbage, which I don't know anything about. Um, but
That's some
if you
fucking macrobiotic shit.
yeah, that's some macrobiotic horror subgenre stuff right there. So, um, yeah, we're my friend Dave. He's the drummer in Dragon Sounds, the band I play in, and we cover not just Miami Connection, but we also cover our what is it? Our creed is that we only cover songs that have been in movie soundtracks.
Okay.
So that's kind of our gimmick. So yeah, we're opening up the show with the Great Octopus, which is Dave's solo project. He has a new album coming out. If you're into like synth driven 80s John Carpenter sounding
Totally.
music, or spaghetti like Ennio Morricone, that kind of stuff, I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll love Voyager 3. And we're bringing them up for their first ever Canadian show, which is Friday, June 13th, uh,
Okay.
at Basement 254. I guess that's all I'm going to plug for
Okay.
now. Yeah, maybe check out my zine, Film Fuckers, if you like zines about
Yeah.
film. We've got a third issue in the works. The first theme was hot takes. The
Hmm.
theme of issue 2 was hard media, like physical media, and our third issue, which is in the works, is the theme is superheroes in film,
Ah, okay.
which may or may not be appealing to you, but we're doing it anyways.
Do
And
it. Yeah.
that'll probably be out in June or July at some point. So that's kind of all I'm working on right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a pitch for your next one, but I don't
Hmm.
know if we
Oh, I'm
can
very
talk
open.
about that right now. So,
Yeah, we can talk
yeah.
about that later. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, cool, man. So,
Yeah.
yeah, lots going on, lots coming up. I will put all the links in the show notes and everything.
Awesome.
And yeah, if we can have you come back on in the future and
Yeah, I'd love to.
continue this chat. Everything
Yeah.
you said, I was like, I have an anecdote I want to add here. I have
Yeah.
like when you mentioned Soy Bomb, I was like, oh, I'm sure your
Yeah.
bands played there. One of my bands played there
Yeah.
back in the day. So,
Yeah. I'm sure
anyways,
we cross paths kind of residually. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, questionnaire time. What is one item you can't live without?
I would say the first thing that popped in my head was my ADHD medication.
Oh,
Um, I mean, I could live without it, but since I got on Concerta, people ask me like,
Concerta. Okay.
yeah, people ask me, how do you do it? How do you do all this stuff? Man, I got medicated 5 years ago, and I've had the most productive 5 years of my life. I swear to God. So if you think you have ADHD or some kind of, if you're neuro spicy, some people
Yeah.
are calling it, um, get into therapy. Maybe see a psychiatrist or do some kind of mindfulness exercise. Like I would say that therapy and medication. Yeah, and besides my ADHD meds, I would say I can't live without my Black Belt Cinema beer cozy. Just $5 available at blackbeltcinema.ca.
Nice.
I don't know, man.
Love it.
I
Love
don't
it.
know. Yeah, those are the two items I can't live
Yeah.
without. I would say. Yeah.
I have to remember the medication you said because
Yeah.
and I'll get permission from her
Hmm.
before leaving this in the episode. But my wife got diagnosed a couple
Uh,
years ago,
yeah.
and she's been trying different medications.
Hmm.
Not really stoked on
Yeah.
the results, but the one you
Mm.
mentioned, Concerta.
Concerta, yeah, it's
Yeah.
another. It's basically a brand of methamphetamine or like Ritalin, Adderall, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's literally ADHD medication is literally just meth, in a small dose. But if you are, diagnosed with ADHD, they often will start you off with antidepressant or an SSRI because people with ADHD, their brains don't produce as much dopamine as the average neurotypical person. So yeah, I was started on that, which helped for my anxiety and feeling balanced. But in terms of the focus and not being distracted all the time, which I still get, the Concerta really, really helped me a lot.
Cool.
So yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll pass
yeah,
that along.
cool.
Okay. What was the last great movie you saw in theaters?
Um, oh, okay, yeah. Geez, I was literally just at a theater the other night. What did I see? I guess technically the last movie I saw was Kung Fu Rascals, um,
Okay,
in
nice.
theaters. But the last movie I saw at a multiplex though was you know what? Another great movie that popped up in my head was the Barbie movie. I really like the Barbie movie,
Oh,
but that was like
wow.
last
Okay.
summer. That was last
Yeah.
summer though. I also saw Cure uh,
Oh,
at the
yeah, yeah.
review.
Phenomenal movie.
Yeah, I really like that one. Oh, okay, yeah. One of the last movies, the really great movies I saw in theaters was Paying for It, the Sookyun
Wait.
Lee
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
film based on the Chester Brown comic book
Yeah.
about sex workers and Chester Brown's experience of that. That was incredible. And
Mm,
I thought it was going to be good, but it really exceeded my expectations. And
awesome.
just also just like another amazing love letter to Toronto. Like if
Yeah.
you've ever been to Kensington Market or really anywhere in Toronto, you'll probably recognize a bunch of places in it and a bunch of people. Really great film that just at the heart of it is about friendship, but also about so many other things.
Yeah.
And just yeah, just brutally honest and raw, and also like humanizing to sex workers and Johns and just and artists and creatives as well.
Mm.
So yeah, paying for it was incredible. Really enjoyed it.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I still need to see it. My wife saw it.
yeah,
I did read the book
yeah.
back in the day. I want to say
Hmm.
like around 2006 or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's been out
But
for a while. Yeah.
good segue for the next question. Oh no, actually no, I'm skipping a question. But anyways, I was like, well, I'll go to the anyways. What was the last great book you read?
Oh yeah. I literally just finished The Forever War by
Oh, okay.
Joe Haldeman. Yeah, just it came out in the I don't know, the mid to late 70s. It's very famously allegory for the Vietnam War.
Okay.
The author actually was a Vietnam War vet and got into writing science fiction. And he had a very hard time getting this book published because it was, considered pretty controversial, I guess, because the Vietnam War was still going on when it was released. And um, the movie essentially is about, it's in the future. I can't remember exactly what timeline, but the whole thing is that these cosmic like space battles are being waged, uh, you know, thousands of light years away, and they travel through these like they call them is it capsules, or it doesn't matter what they call them, but they're basically like wormholes where
Mm,
they travel light years in space, but the further they get, more time passes. So they might be gone for like 2 months in space time, but in Earth time, like 20 years has passed. So every time they come back to Earth, their loved ones have passed away, or and they're sort of kind of treated differently, which is obviously like a parable for how Vietnam vets were treated when they returned home from the war. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like one of those like science fiction military fascist kind of genre books, like like Starship Troopers, like Robert Heinlein kind of stuff. So
oh, gotcha.
that's the last book I read. I'm also almost done reading These Fists Break Bricks by Grady Hendrix,
Okay.
which is incredible. He's the author of Paperbacks from Hell, and he's also gotten into like horror fiction and stuff, and
Okay.
uh, really amazing like film historian personality guy, Grady Hendrix. Yeah, did this great book.
Cool.
I'm spacing on the co-author's name, but it basically chronicles the introduction of martial arts films into North America,
Mm,
from the beginnings of like when judo like first appeared in a film, and then a large chapter is devoted to like a lot of the kung fu films that played at like grindhouses and
sweet.
on 42nd Street and stuff in the 70s and 80s. And yeah, I'm almost done it. I got the book ages ago, but yeah, it's really amazing resource, and it's like tons of high res scans of original posters and all just a treasure trove of information if you're into martial arts cinema and martial arts history.
That sounds rad. I was
Yeah.
just gonna say the Forever War makes me think of Flight of the Navigator.
Yeah, yeah, it probably has some connection there. It's been pretty influential on a lot of sci-fi works since then, So yeah, check it out. I got it from the Toronto Public Library. Read it in like 2 or 3 days. I couldn't put it down. So
Oh wow.
yeah, yeah, it was
Damn.
really good. Yeah.
All right. What was the last great concert you went to?
Hmm. Um. Yeah, the last great concert I went to. I'm trying to think. I don't go to. I used to go to like one or two concerts every week. I'm trying to think of the last one that I went to though. Geez. I did see this band called Hobby play
Okay.
at. There's a studio off Dundas West called Comma Edits. They're like a post
Hmm.
production studio, and they have
Okay.
these free events. I think it's like every first Thursday of the month. And they get like a local band and a DJ and Hobby played at the show. They're like a local kind of like country rock band. Um,
Okay.
that was pretty good. Trying to think of it. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I even had tickets to something.
Mm.
I really
Too
like
many movies.
Yeah, I am going to way more movies these days. I've not been at a lot of shows. Oh, you know what? The last really good concert I went to, I saw Slash Need, which
Oh
our
yeah, yeah, yeah,
mutual friend Alex plays in. They
yeah.
played at Long Winter
Okay.
at St. Anne's Cathedral. That was
Cool.
amazing. Like their live show's so good now. They have dancers and all kinds of really cool visuals.
Sick.
It's very like kind of techno punk kind of
Yeah.
yeah, really probably like I think the best musical act in Toronto in my opinion right now.
Mm.
Slash Need. So yeah, those are like the two last kind of fun concerts I went to. Yeah.
Awesome, man. All
Yeah.
right. The next one, it's kind of a long question, but doesn't
Okay.
need to be a long answer. Okay. For his final meal, John Wayne Gacy picked KFC chicken, shrimp, and strawberries. For your final meal before being executed, what would you pick?
Oh my god. Definitely wouldn't be KFC. Although
Yeah.
I did really like the Big Crunch
Oh,
chicken
hell
burger
yeah.
growing up, and they had when I was vegan, they came up with a pretty good plant-based chicken burger too for a minute there.
Okay.
Um, but those are not going to be my picks. Honestly, I might order something Szechuan related. I love
Mm.
Szechuan chili peppers. I love that numbing spice. So I might order something like mapo tofu, which is like a tofu stir fry with like minced pork and chili.
Mm.
That's a really good one, but I don't want to be kind of boring for
Yeah, you
uh,
got to go all out.
last
Don't worry about
meal.
like if you get diarrhea or like
Yeah,
stomach
okay,
cramps,
yeah.
just
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I might order. You know what? Maybe I would eat like a raw octopus, like Daisu and Old Boy. I just fucking just wolf down a live
Why
octopus.
not? Yeah.
Just and I'll film it, live or if they'll let me.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I would just eat a live octopus. Uh,
Okay.
take down another living life with me, because
Sure.
I'm shallow and
Okay.
uh,
would you drink anything with that? Like
I really, I mean, I love craft beer.
same,
So
same, yeah.
I Godspeed is like one of my favorite breweries.
Oh, they're pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I really like uh, their like kind of like Czech style like lagers and that kind of stuff. I might have like a
Mm.
Czech style lager. Also really like sake. I might have, there's a really good sake distillery in the distillery district called Izumi. And you can
Okay.
get these like unpasteurized sakis that are just like really rich in flavor, kind of like sweet and almondy. So I might have a pair it with some sake or something like that.
That sounds nice. What about
Um,
dessert?
oh my god, dessert. I like mochi a lot, like the kind of sweet, chewy, like mochi with red bean is a
Mm.
fave. But I also like. I'm pretty basic, man. I like a Twix bar. I love Twix.
Can't
It's
go
one of my
wrong.
favorite chocolate bars. But like maybe a banana split might actually be kind of nice. I feel like that would take
Mm.
some time to get through. Um, so yeah, let's just fucking go with a banana split.
Banana
Classic
split. Can't go
banana
wrong.
split. Yeah, I love a banana
Yeah.
split. Um,
I like that.
so yeah, yeah. I'm not a big. I used to be really into food. I'm not a big foodie these days.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah,
Movies. It's got
movies.
got your mind there, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Final question. Can art go too far?
Yes, yeah. I think it absolutely can. Because I mean, just because you can do something doesn't mean you need to do it. And like,
Okay.
there's only so many allegories for fascism and stuff that like I okay, well, I would say, okay, maybe I don't know, because I look at something like Sallow, 20 Days of Sodom, and like I think it's a very shocking movie. Did it go too far? I would say that the people of Italy felt so because they
Okay.
martyred him. But
Yeah.
at the same time, though, it's a brilliant work of art. But then I look at
Hmm.
something like a Serbian film, and I'm like, why? Do we really need to
Oh,
see?
interesting. Okay.
I don't need to see a baby get raped. Like there's other ways of
Yeah, it's terrible. It's
providing
terrible.
your perspective on whatever kind of fascism or whatever
Mm,
that director was trying to reference. Um,
okay.
I do understand that, especially the horror genre is constantly trying to not just reinvent itself, but it's trying to one up itself. And
Yeah.
I understand that controversy and shock value is also a marketing strategy to a degree. Um,
Mm,
but I would say that art can go too far if there is very to little no substance or context behind it that provides some kind of meaningful examination and justification of the abhorrently violent things you're seeing. um I think you were talking about this with Sam Deegan in your episode about uh misogyny and violence and rape in Japanese films, maybe specifically, and whether things can
hmm.
go too far with that. And it's like, it's the issue is like, okay, is this being presented in a celebratory sense, or is this being presented in a critical sense or a subversive sense? But again, it also depends on the viewer, because you and I might not take any enjoyment watching things like that, but then there are people that do. And I'm
Mm,
not necessarily judging those people. Well, maybe I am judging those people, but um, I would say that art can go too far, but that doesn't mean we should censor it. um, we just have to be critical of it.
yeah.
And yeah, we should be critical of everything. And you can't take everything at face value. And there's a lot of bad art,
Yes.
and not everything is worthy of your attention. Not everything is worthy of your time. And that's where film programmers and podcasts and letterbox and all this stuff comes in to help you wade through the feces of
Yes.
art. And
Absolutely.
sometimes those feces are worth picking up and smelling, and maybe handing it off to someone else to take a sniff, and then just throwing it back on the ground, and then washing your hands of it and moving on to the next piece of shit.
Or just taking a big old bite like
Or just
Divine.
take a bite. Just take a bite out of it.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
I think you could get sick for 2 weeks or something. I think that's what
Oh, okay.
happened with Divine.
Oh, did that? Okay, yeah, I didn't know
Yeah, in Pink
that.
Flamingos, I think
Right.
Divine ate the dog shit
Oh,
and then was like nauseous or had some sort of like food poisoning for a couple
yeah,
weeks,
yeah.
but was more or less okay.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
that's good. I'm glad. God.
immortalized in film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's. I watched that movie like on a Greyhound bus once, and I was just like, should I be watching this right now? Oh my
No,
god.
that was what are you doing?
I don't know what I was thinking, man. I'm really into
Yeah.
watching inappropriate films on airplanes and buses.
Uh,
You know.
I once flew on an Almodovar film. I can't remember which one on an airplane.
Okay.
And in about 5 minutes in, there was like a topless nude shot.
Oh
And
yeah.
I just was like freaked out and like turned it off. You
Ooh,
know,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't do that in public.
No.
That's just me though. Maybe some
Yeah.
people are into that.
Oh, for sure
And
there
maybe
are.
for
Yeah.
them, that art will not be going too far enough.
I don't think
Or
so.
far. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. That-
Yeah.
right
Well,
on.
on that note, watching
Yeah.
inappropriate films in
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brandon. I really appreciated your time, your amazing insights and anecdotes and experiences. It's really inspiring, and I hope that people listen to this and get motivated to do something themselves in their own city, town,
Yeah.
suburb, wherever they are, you
Hmm.
know? And yeah, we'll have you back on. And maybe next time we can get a little bit more into like talking about the films themselves,
Yeah.
you know?
It would be fun to talk about like a specific subject or genre or filmmaker. Because
Yeah.
I know we were talking about lists of films that were influential in Black Belt cinema. We didn't even like talk about many of those things, but Yeah, I'd love to come back on anytime. There's space for me. So,
There's
and
always space for you,
yeah,
Brandon.
thanks, pal.
Well, I'll
Appreciate you.
probably bring you on the next season.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually don't do two per season, to
No,
be
no, don't.
understand.
You don't want to double down
Yeah,
on any.
exactly.
Yeah, let's. I'll be back in the future.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
All right.
cool.
Thank you so much, buddy. Have a good night, and I'll see you at the next Black Belt screening,
Yes, yeah.
Black Belt Cinema screening. Yes.
Black Belt Cinema at the Royal. I mean Revue.
At the review, you did it too. Yes. Okay. Have a good one, man.
Take care, man.